All right. My name is Bill Tibbetts, and I'm with Crossroads Urban Center, and we sent 5 questions about housing and homelessness to every single candidate running for office in Salt Lake City this year. And today, Clayton Scrivner, who is running in for the City Council in District 4, agreed to talk to me and share his answers to those questions. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Bill, and thanks to Crossroads Urban Center for 60 years of service in this area. And it's I'm getting used to meeting with people and having them ask my opinion on things that you're the expert about. So it's I'm getting used to getting my legs underneath myself as a candidate. I've been in public service a long time. I'm used to being the kind of the person behind the person, and now coming on here and having you ask me questions, it's an interesting experience. And you were just talking before we started, it's great to meet people that I've known, and reconnecting with people through this process has been great. So it's been great to meet with you all. So thank you.
Thank you. Our first question is about housing for chronically homeless people, which is people who have been homeless for 12 months or more, or 4 times in the last 3 years, and have a disabling condition. So the question is, do you support the production of sufficient permanent supportive housing to meet the need of people with physical and mental disabilities in Salt Lake City?
Yes, and I'm just going to be a spoiler alert right off the top. I'm going to be supportive of just about everything we're talking about today, and talk more about how we get there and maybe some ideas around collaboration and strategies. I wish we were having this conversation today around a national conversation about a war on poverty, and part of that war on poverty being housing as a right, as a general tenet of that war on poverty. Unfortunately, we're not there nationally. So I'm here as a city councilman council person candidate to talk about ways we can make housing more affordable, especially in District 4, the district I'm running in, which is the most urban and most growing district in the city, especially vertical and around and with housing. So yeah, I mean, I worked in the city under the Becker administration, and we worked on a permanent supportive housing at the former public safety building. That was very exciting. I was going to ask you, what are the numbers telling us about the need for that level of permanent supportive housing around people with disabilities?
Okay, well, that's a great question, and
Yeah, I don't have access to that data, so
because I think about 2 or 3 years ago, the Salt Lake Valley Coalition on Homelessness did an assessment saying that we need 450 units like that for families without kids, for childless adults. And I think right after that, we had a pandemic where the cost of living went up dramatically. And so the cost it takes to be able to be self-sufficient also went up. And so I don't know. I mean, we probably are at a point we need to reassess. And also at the same time, we're in the process of producing more of this type of housing stock at once than we ever have in the city. And so I think for us, part of the question is, after the current wave of housing is built, will you support doing what it takes to make sure we don't fall behind the way we have in recent years? Because
no, I was just around this issue. I've been talking to a lot of people around it, and I feel like Salt Lake City, especially in our urban core, we've experienced this great growth around density. And I mean great as in numbers of dense housing. Has it been great around affordability? Has it met our needs? I'm wanting to push this kind of thought of a next phase of development in Salt Lake City, and that involves permanent supportive housing and low barrier housing, and an income or an affordability mix across the spectrum. So yes, to answer your first question, absolutely, the city should be a major player in permanent supportive housing, especially around people most vulnerable and with disabilities.
Okay. Our second question we sent all the candidates is actually about supportive housing for families with an extensive history of homelessness. Right now, there are families at the Midvale shelter that have been there for 2 years. You know, it would be a long
Yeah.
conversation about the different supports those families need compared to other individuals experiencing chronic homelessness. But would you commit to actively supporting efforts to build 200 units of child-centered supportive housing in Salt Lake County during the next 5 years to fully meet the current need?
Yes, and not just in Salt Lake County, in Salt Lake City. I would welcome it in District 4. One of the great things about running for office is it's such a great listening and learning opportunity. I've only been at this for 2 months and I've already learned a great deal of things. And one of them, I think it was on your website where you talked about 35% of people who entered home and were unhoused. And I think it was April 2023. You guys had measured or benchmarked that 35% were kids. Is that correct?
It's always shocking when you
Yeah.
see the percentage of the homeless population in a given month that are children. It's
I don't think many people know that. And it was eye-opening for me to see. And yes, there's no reason we should have unhoused kids in this valley. And so if I was to be lucky enough to be able to serve, that would be a huge priority for me.
okay. Our third question that we sent all the candidates has to do with people who were dislocated by development or gentrification. Do you support the creation of a tenant relocation assistance program in Salt Lake City?
Yes, and I know I was introduced to that concept through the Thriving in Place plan that has been going through the city. And it also, once again, in that listening and learning, I really have, my eyes have been open because my work in the redevelopment agency and around community development in my professional life, I've really kind of switched to not only do we need smarter density, but we need to preserve the affordable housing stock that exists. So you don't have to have tenant relocation, right? You stop that problem before it happens. But this we have that issue. There is a threat to our affordable housing stock. And so when we lose it, because we are going to lose some of it, yes, we should absolutely support tenants to find housing. Otherwise, they will enter, a precarious situation. I was just thinking, there is reason to be optimistic that we're having these conversations around housing and seeing housing be top of mind on where it typically hasn't been, like at the state level. I remember when I was first started at the city, I went back and read some of our general plans going back to the 60s and 70s. And it was an articulated goal of the city in the 1970s to tear down workforce housing, single family homes downtown and in the West Temple Gateway area to attract car lots. So, I mean, you think about it in a historical context, we have come a long way that we're having these conversations because these decisions at a municipal level have generational effect. And so I want our legacy, the legacy of the next city council, the legacy of the next 10 years in the city is to be, I want people to look back on us and say they saw that we were creating a less accessible, less affordable, and less achievable city, and they did something about it. So yes, I want to fully protect our affordable housing fabric that we have, especially in D4, and then open up more opportunities. And if people are relocated, I want to support them. So there you go. Okay, good.
The fourth question we sent is actually closely related. It's and that is what's the responsibility of a developer?
Mm-hmm.
They destroy existing affordable housing. And so do you support the creation of a community benefit policy to prevent the loss of existing affordable units in the city?
I think when we talk about growth and development pressure on the city, and especially in D4, there is many people have the question, why are we building unaffordable, unattainable density in our city? And that's probably because we haven't been aggressive enough about requiring community benefit. And some of our hands are tied a little bit around inclusionary zoning and stuff like that. You know, we can't, a lot of our options are more carrots than sticks around affordable housing. But I think we have enough cards where we can push this. I think when you look down 400 South, and you and I have talked about TSA zoning, and there is no reason TSA zoning shouldn't incentivize deep affordability and an affordability mix, when what the product that we're getting in that zone, which is this urban core and the most transit connected area, is right in the middle of our city. We're building 300 unit apartments with zero affordability. I mean, with the amount of energy we have around affordable housing, I don't see why that's happening in our city. And I'd like to explore ways we can change that. So yeah, being more, I mean, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, creative around community benefit requirements for developers is something I am fully on board.
Okay, the last question we sent all the candidates is about money. Do you support efforts to increase funding to address homelessness and housing instability in the city?
Yes, I mean, we are in a housing crisis. And I don't like to be negative, but it's not great, and it doesn't appear to be heading in the right direction. We need to be, I mean, the city, let's give the city some credit. We have made some progress in how urgent we are about this and how much investment we've made in this I think I've seen it change over the past 20 years. But we can do more. And the answer is I would support doing more. And as a fiduciary body of the city, I would look to, you know, how we can allocate funds. That being said, we need partnerships. And it's exciting, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, it's exciting to see the state talk about affordable housing. And, you know, that's great. That's refreshing. But you know, they asked for 100 and, you know, got less from the state. So I want us to continue to lead. But, you know, I think you see it in all of the people that are candidates for office. We need partnerships and we need support of not only the state, federal government, our faith-based community. It really needs to be a team effort to alleviate some of these problems. But yes, from the city standpoint, we've got to stay the #1 municipal partner in the state.
Okay. So if people want to learn more about your campaign and the issues you're concerned about, where can they learn more about Clayton?
Where can you learn more about me? Let's see, the internet. Clayton4council.com, the number 4 for District 4. You know, that's fun. Yeah, I got a nice website up, and there's tons of all my primary issues, but this is top of mind. This is my #1, I would say top 3 issue that I want to advocate for in my if I was chosen to serve on the city council. Housing, transportation, right? Those 2 things, those are hierarchy of needs issues that we need to address. Housing being #1, you need a roof over your head to be successful, you know, to have a shot. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting to be here, and I'm glad you had me here, Bill.
Thank you so much, and thank you for running. I think I've talked to a lot of candidates during my time at Crossroads, and I'm just always amazed that anybody is willing to run, and that so many good people are. So thank you for
I know it's fantastic. I just want to say, like, I mean, we're just getting started on this thing, and I'm really excited that there's 3 people that appear to be running great campaigns for this race, and I'm excited I mean, there's no better community engagement exercise than an election. So the fact that we're having these conversations in District 4 makes me feel great, and so I'm excited to have more.
Yeah, well, I hope to see you at our Meet the Candidates barbecue next week on the 12th.
You know, I'll be there.
Okay. I'm gonna